Hey YouTube, Alan back with another E3 video, and this time I'm going to be talking about Microsoft's conference. Quite a delay, I know. I had planned to record this last week and just never got around to it. Firstly, I left my note. I couldn't find my notes, and now that when I did find them, I didn't have time. So anyway, better late than never. Overall opinion, before we get into the nitty gritty, I thought it was a solid presentation. One of the best in recent years. Not better than Sony's in my book, but maybe that was just a taste of games that they had on display. But compared to Microsoft previous years, where it was a lot of focus on Kinect and all these other apps, non-gaming stuff, it was definitely better. So anyway, as you'd expect, conference opened up with Halo 5. Very much a standard reveal. Didn't blow me away, but then I'm not a Halo person, so there's that. You got to take that into consideration. It looked solid, I thought, but it looked like more of the same at the same stage. Certainly the right thing for the Xbox crowd, anyway. So then we had Warzone. I couldn't. I don't know. It seemed if you had. It just kind of ran in with Halo for whatever reason. It just didn't. It didn't distinguish itself at all. So literally, my impression of it was, what is this? Is this its own entity? I don't know. It left me cold anyway. Following that, we had Recore, and that's kind of that's rather interesting because it's behind by the team that left Retro Studios and formed Armature, and the guy behind Mega Man, Keiji Inafune. So there's a lot of interesting talent behind that project, and I actually think that's going to be one of the ones to watch from the Microsoft presentation. Definitely got a nice vibe to it, and a little different while still feeling like very much an Xbox game. I'm also curious whether migrate eventually onto other systems, because we do know a lot of what we see here in both the Microsoft and the Sony conferences, not real exclusivity, just kind of exclusive add-on content or timed exclusive. So curious to see how that one will go. And I think at one point Armature did look to do a kind of a Mega Man reboot, as they'd done with Metroid when they were part of Retro Studios. So there's definitely an understanding between the different talents involved. As I said, definitely the early highlight of the kind of opening block. So Microsoft then changed tack, and they kind of spoke about evolution of the platform, I suppose you could say. And two things in particular stood out. One, they're going to be introducing backwards compatibility with the 360. And two, they're going to bring out a new Elite controller. Now, both of those initially sound like really good things. People were kind of saying, backwards compatibility, that's great, yada. But when you actually read between the fine line, it's not that impressive. By the end of this year, they're going to have about 100 titles compatible, which means they're going to have probably less than 10% of the library compatible. And by that stage, the system will be better part of 2 years old. So that's, for a feature that frankly I feel should have been at the system at launch, when you most need your pre-existing catalogue, it's not a great step towards compatibility. And another major issue in my book is that you can't play directly from the disc. You have to have internet connection to download the title, and utilize your disc as a key to play it. Or at least that's how I interpret it from what they were saying. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below, because I'd like to get it out and straighten it out. It seems weird to say, it's compatible with your Xbox Live titles and your disc titles, but then your disc titles need to have it downloaded from the internet as well. So I don't know. At least with the Xbox compatibility on the Xbox 360, there were simply compatibility packs. So you didn't have to download every single title. You just downloaded the kind of emulation update. And there's another thing. This does sound quite a bit like the Xbox compatibility in the 360, which was fairly hit and miss. Not really a system seller in my book. So the second thing they talked about then in that area was the Elite controller. That controller does look very nice. Essentially, it seems that you can move certain components, you can change out the D-pad, the type of control stick you want, you can remap buttons, there's more underside triggers, kind of like for flappy paddle gearbox and racing games. And it does look nice, but it's something like $120 or something like that, so it's very expensive too. It's definitely a niche item. I don't think it's going to be a big seller, really. But it kind of, with both that and the next game that was highlighted, kind of shows how Microsoft are moving into a bit more of a PC direction with their console, offering more compatibility and, in the case of Fallout 4, which was on next, modding. So they're going to allow mods that are created on the PC to be playable on the Xbox as well, which is something that you never could do before on a console. And that's interesting, because Microsoft to me seem like they never quite know the direction they want to take with the Xbox platform. The very first Xbox was very clearly a PC, off-the-shelf components. You know, you had a lot of PC-like functionality. The hard drive, you have your music library and whatnot. For the time frame, that was a massive shift. Then when they brought out the 360, they seemed to change it and try to close the platform off so they controlled access a little bit more. It wasn't as free. Hence why it wasn't free to mod like the original Xbox was. And now they're almost twisting it again, where you have customizable controllers and you have mods allowed and stuff. So it's kind of like they're changing their mind in direction here. Interesting. Anyway, Fallout 4, may as well talk about that next. I thought that looked very good, very interesting, and if nothing else, you have a cool looking German Shepherd as your companion, so that game's got to be awesome, just because. And to be fair, it does look like it's got a nice, interesting setup, and it's Bethesda. They're not going to mess it up. If you're interested in Fallout, I'm sure you're going to like Fallout 4. EA came on then and just started spouting their usual blah blah blah, EA, blah blah blah, who cares. They were talking largely about EA Access, and it's kind of like a rental service, I suppose, or a Netflix type of affair. You get access to some of their titles. I don't know. Because of the type of titles that they typically have, your Need for Speed, your FIFAs and so on, it just doesn't interest me at all. And they had a trailer for Plants vs. Zombie Garden Warfare 2. And they spoke about it, and they showed this trailer. But as far as I can tell, it was just a CGI trailer. There was nothing resembling gameplay in it. It didn't tell me anything. And at the same stage, it's Plants vs. Zombie. It's hard to get that excited, even though, the original Plants vs. Zombie is a really good game. So, I don't know. Strange. The next, kind of following on from EA, in terms of feel and commercialism and just being a big advert, was they started talking about Forza 6. And yeah, it's going to be a prettier version of Forza 5 and so on. And of course, they brought out a Ford car onto the stage. It's like, who cares? It's a car. Woohoo! I don't understand. They've done that in the past before, and they're the bits that feel just such a waste of time and don't fit what people are really watching those presentations for. And it's clearly just commercial interest from their business partners, and rubbish, if you ask me. So then they start, or at least my notes start to withdraw a bit more. So maybe it's just I wasn't as interested, or I don't know, maybe they did. They showed Dark Souls 3. They showed a few Tom Clancy games. My God, the Tom Clancy franchises. The Tom Clancy's The Division, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. I think there was another Rainbow Six game. I've just written Rainbow for whatever reason. Unless they're making a game of Rainbow, with Zippy and Bungo and co. Man, that is so not like Microsoft. I must have dreamt that part of the presentation. Apparently with Rainbow Six Siege, they're going to be giving away some of the older Rainbow Six games, which is pretty cool actually. I like that. And they showed Gigantic, which is going to be a free-to-play type of game. Interesting to see even the consoles moving into that space. They also then did an indie mix. It's very hard to kind of get a proper feel for these when they do those kind of quick collages. Two games stood out to me, Beyond Eyes and in particular Cuphead. Cuphead looked really interesting art style. I've seen people describe it as if you take Mickey Mania from the Mega Drive and the SNES area, the kind of that kind of concept of the first level or so, where you're Steamboat Willie, and you take that graphic style and apply it to a whole game, you got Cuphead, and yeah, you kind of do. It does have that 1930s Disney vibe about it. And then they showed Ion, which was, again, you didn't really see too much. They had Rise of the Tomb Raider on display again, which it looks good. It looks like it's a nice step up from Tomb Raider, the reboot. I do find it hilarious that they're still kind of banging on about exclusivity on it when it's very clear that it's a timed exclusivity. But it'll be a solid title, and I wonder, when it comes out on PS4, is there going to be kind of extra, content or remastered stuff? Or wouldn't surprise me if there is. That's going to be a real, I'd be very careful about picking up that one, because just the way companies do it these days, it's all about versioning and getting the better, DLC pack added. Or I don't like it. If the game itself looks fun, and I'm sure it will be fun, but the way they're treating that exclusivity is not nice. So then they introduced Rare, and there had been big talk beforehand that there was going to be Banjo 3E announced, especially as Playtonic Games had been working on Yooka-Laylee. There was this thought that Microsoft were going to be combating that with an official Banjo-Kazooie game. There wasn't. That was a big surprise, and perhaps even more of a surprise, and the highlight of the show for me was they announced that they're going to be doing a Rare collection, 30 of Rare's classic hits for £30. That is an absolute steal. They're going to be from the NES all the way up to the 360. I've seen that they're going to have a lot of the N64 games. You've got stuff like Blast Core, Jet Force Gemini, Banjo-Kazooie games. Like, Banjo is an obvious one. Perfect Dark's fairly obvious. But, things like Blast Core and Jet Force Gemini, they're great games that don't get, spoken about quite as much, but they really are good fun. Obviously, no Donkey Kong games, no GoldenEye licensing and whatnot, but still plenty of top quality stuff. To be honest, just the Banjo games alone are worth 30, and then or Banjo and Conquer are worth 30, and then the rest is all just gravy. That was to me easily the highlight of the show, because there's so much content. They even acknowledge that, and that there's going to be 10,000 gamer points associated with that collection. So if you've got an Xbox, go to 360. If you've got an Xbox One, you pretty much have to buy that. It's just wrong not that there's so much quality on there. They also, though, showed off a new game called Sea of Thieves. So this is the new thing that they've been working on. Nice to see that they're finally released from the Kinect shackles. No more Kinect Sports and all that crap. It seems, in fact, that Kinect has been well swept under the carpet, and Microsoft have quite clearly decided that that's going nowhere. That was a good decision. So, Sea of Thieves, yeah, it looks interesting. Reminds me a bit of Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, kind of naturally with the kind of open world piracy theme. There's going to be quite a focus on multiplayer, it seems. I think that's the type of game we'd have to see more of to know if it's going to be any good. And to be honest, with Rare's more recent track record, we'd have to get more hands-on play and opinions before you'd want to get too excited about it. They've been very hit and miss, so it's hard to be, oh my god, that looks amazing. So then we ended up with another series that to me has always kind of flattered to deceive, and that's Fable Legends. They didn't focus on it too much, so maybe they realised that themselves. Again, I'm sure people who are fans of Fable will lap it up, but it's a series that's always gotten a lot of, publicity, and I know Peter Molyneux was responsible for a lot of that, and it never really delivered. He's not at the helm this time around, as far as I can tell, so maybe things will change. So we were near the end of the show, and Microsoft decided to talk about VR and how Oculus Rift is going to be compatible with the Xbox One. And by compatible, it means you need a PC and you're going to be able to do some sort of streaming from your Xbox One to your PC and then use the Oculus Rift via your PC. Nice and convenient plug and play, console goodness there. But having said that, I guess it is good that they're going to support it. They also spoke about the HoloLens. Now, to me, there are two very different propositions because, I've used the Oculus a few times, and I think it's going to be a nice novelty. I don't see it being this big new direction for gaming. I think once you kind of get used to the kind of novelty of when you turn left, you kind of turn left in the game, it might diminish. Certainly, the application isn't going to be there for every game, and as the cost to entry is still relatively high, and certainly from a console perspective, if you need a PC and you need the Oculus, and it's not there just yet. Now the HoloLens is interesting because it's a whole different proposition in that it's going to be generating holograms that you can see in the real world. It's augmented reality. Now normally augmented reality has been very miss in its application. This one does look good, at least from a tech perspective. They spoke about Minecraft and how you can see your Minecraft world instead of being kind of on the screen. You could have the Minecraft world on the table, and you could start using air gestures, manipulating it and looking at it and whatnot. I do wonder how well the air gestures are going to work though, because it's not like you're really grabbing that piece. There's nothing there to grab. So without that tactile response, is the interface going to really work? Now I know you can use your Xbox controller. Oh, that was another thing about Oculus. Oculus is now going to come with an Xbox controller, so they're very much So HoloLens, interesting, really interesting technology. I'm not convinced about it from gameplay yet, but it's certainly something I would like to try out. That's for damn sure, because it does look very cool. But right now, to me, it looks like that's cool tech, but not, this is going to make the game so much more fun. So that was before we leave VR gaming and augmented reality, it does also make me think that Microsoft seems to chase every avenue of gaming that comes up. It always strikes me that they never have a very clear direction. This is what we are, this is what we do, this is what we're going to do. When Sony did things like the SingStar, they brought out microphones. When they had the iToy, they brought out their own iCamera. When Nintendo had the Wiimote, then they followed up with the Kinect. Now, when we see VR being done on platforms and Project Morpheus being done on the PlayStation 4, well, they got the HoloLens and they got Oculus Rift. So it always feels like they're trying to grab everything without a clear direction of this is central to our platform. Kinect was supposedly central to the platform because after all, Xbox on, Xbox off and all that crap. But now it's kind of like, yeah, away with that. Didn't work. So, anyway, that's an aside note. The end of the conference then with Gears of War. While I appreciate Halo, I actually do think it's got an interesting art style. I don't care for Gears of War at all. I have the first one, and I've tried to get into it a few times, but to me it's a snooze fest. It's just like browns and greys and blacks and greys and match Marines. Don't get the game, don't get the gameplay, definitely don't get the artistic vision. So it just, to me the show ended with VR stuff. So, Anyway, maybe I sound a little negative about it, but that's only because, for me, a lot of the content isn't that appealing. The rare stuff is probably the highlight. And I do like the fact that they're trying to maybe do a bit more with backwards compatibility and things like that. Certainly nothing would make me want to buy an Xbox, that's for damn sure. And the closest thing was the Rare Replay, and I have all those games pretty much anyway. But having said that, I think for a lot of people that was a solid lineup, and definitely spoke to the fans quite well. Not as good as Sony, because they had a lot more hits, but probably better than Nintendo, because Nintendo left people feeling a bit down about the Wii U. So kind of like a middle-of-the-road performance from Microsoft. Could do better, but could do a hell of a lot worse. Anyway, that's enough rambling. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I might do another one for E3. I might not. We'll see how I'm feeling. But anyway, we'll catch you again with another video. Not too sure what it is. See you again.